Welcome to Rose Red Homestead. With recent events in the news, all of us know that there is a possibility that at some point in time we may have to bug out quickly. And boy, it would be nice to have some things all ready to go so that we could just grab and go. And those are called, of course, we know bug out bags or 72-hour kits. But what about bug out buckets? That's what we're going to be talking about. Behind this door, we have all of our HVAC equipment, our large hot water heater, and our bug out buckets. So when we come back, we will do the big reveal. So before we do the big reveal, I'm going to have Jim pan over to where our 5-gallon jugs of water are stored so you can get the idea of how close they are to this closet. So they're very close. Now I have to fix the door here so we can get the other one to stay open. So here we go. So here are our 6 buckets. These are our bug out buckets. So here's what we have figured out that we will do. The moment that we are notified that we have to bug out, my job is to get these 6 buckets into the back of the truck, and Jim's job is to get as many of those 5-gallon water jugs of water into the back of the truck. Now notice that we also have our CamelBaks right here. So they're handy and ready to go. And over here on this door, we have our grab list and our turn off reminders. In case of some kind of a catastrophe or an emergency situation, people don't think straight. And so that is why we have this grab list. And it's things like purse and car keys, battery bank, computers, glasses, and our prescription drugs, all things like that. It also reminds us that we need to fill our CamelBaks with water if there is time. Now I'm going to give you just a little rundown of what's in the buckets, but first I'm going to tell you why buckets and not bags. As I have been wrestling for the past several years with how to organize our things in terms of getting ready to bug out, we have a couple or 3 different ways that we might go. First of all, our probably 95% probability is that if we have to bug out, it will be in our truck. That's what we're counting on. We live in kind of an isolated place, and so most likely we would just load things in our truck and bug out. So therefore, we have some things that we keep in our truck all the time. We have a case of water. We have vehicle emergency kits, both in Jim's car and in my truck. And he has a case of water. So on his grab list is to get all the things from out of the back of his car into my truck if we are both here in order to do that. Hopefully we would be able to bug out in the truck. Also in the back of the truck, we have a big duffel bag that has 2 sleeping bags, a tent, and a 10 by 10 tarp. And that is what we would use for shelter. We figure we would either go to a place like a school or a church to shelter, or we would be in the wilderness nearby in our tent. So we have prepared for both possible contingencies. The other 2 ways are that we might have to bug out on our 4-wheelers. If the road was blocked or something and we couldn't get out on our truck, we can go out our back gate and go all the way to the Grand Canyon if necessary on our 4-wheelers. And we have figured out how we would put these buckets in a little trailer that we have and pull right along behind us. And the other thing is, which is probably less than 1% probability, is that we would be on foot. And if we're on foot, it's going to be far more difficult. So we would just not be able to take everything that we have. So that's why we have organized our buckets such that if we have to just go with one bucket, each of us, we know exactly what we need to take. So here's kind of a rundown on our buckets. Oh, and I wanted to show you this book. This is Preparedness Principles, and it is by Barbara Salisbury. She is an expert on preparedness, and I really love this book. It is by reading this book that I had finally the ideas that I was able to figure out and how to load things. So she recommends buckets instead of bags. Until a few weeks ago, we had our things in bags, and it was a huge, heavy backpack. And her idea is that if you put things in buckets, and you'd be surprised how much you can fit in a 5-gallon bucket, then these buckets can be used for other things as well. You can tip them upside down and sit on them. You can use them for stools. If you have to haul water, it's much more convenient and efficient to haul water in a 5-gallon bucket, even if you only fill it half full, than it is in one of those little 32-ounce water bottles, which we have. And then, of course, if necessary, you could turn one of these into a toilet, which I will show how to do a little bit later in the video. So this is my column, and this is Jim's column. So I have clothes in one, and then everything else that I need in another. Here is my hygiene kit that wouldn't quite fit, so I would have to be sure that this gets in. Now the bottom bucket is our food bucket. And one of the things that Barbara Salisbury says is, it's ridiculous to think that you could pack enough food in just 1 or 2 buckets that a family would need for 3 or 4 or 5 days. So we have one bucket that is also just filled with food. And then these are Jim's, same thing. Here are his clothes, here are his extras, and then the third bucket down there is extras like our cooking stoves and a few things in terms of tools and equipment. So about once a year, we go through everything and make sure, number one, that the clothing fits, and number two, that the food is still viable. And then we rearrange everything. So it's about that time for us to go through everything. So what I'm going to do is, off camera, I'm going to open up all of these buckets, and then I'm going to cluster things together. And this is what I learned from this book. In terms of how I began to think about things, it wasn't just one big jumble, but it was, what are we going to need for food? What are we going to need to provide clean water? What are we going to need for shelter? What about first aid and hygiene? And so I've organized things like that, and I'll be pulling things not just from here, because we have 2 places that we pull things from, our bug out bags and our vehicle emergency kits. And together, they form the whole of what we need. Now, I recognize that not every family is like our family. There are just 2 of us, and we have a pickup truck. And so if you have a larger family, you're going to maybe perhaps have less room in your vehicle for these kinds of things. And so you have to make decisions based on what your own family needs are. But in terms of our needs, this is how we have planned it. So I'm going to go off camera now, and then I'm going to be setting things up in little groups so that we can take a good look at the things that are here. Plus, I've pulled some things from our vehicle emergency kits. You know, I really struggled for years trying to figure out the food situation for a bug out bag. And in the book that I showed earlier, one of the things that she suggests is that it is necessary generally to take an extra bucket of food if you expect to have enough for 3, maybe 4, maybe 5 days. And so in addition to the food that we have packed in our usual bug out bags, we have also added a barrel of food in this 5-gallon bucket. And most of this food that you see right here on the table has come right out of this bucket, although a few things still we keep in our bug out bags. But I just wanted to give you an idea of what we have packed, but know that we change our minds all the time about the type of food that we need. For one thing, we know that even though Jim and I are on a healthy lifestyle with the food that we eat, That is not going to be possible in a bug out bag. And so those of us that are on any kind of fancy diets just for weight loss or whatever, we may have to set that aside for a few days. Now, if you are on a restrictive diet under the care of a physician, that is a different situation. But we have packed here the things that we know that we like and things that are easy to prepare. I had thought about bringing some of my soup mixes, but then I discarded that idea because they have to simmer on the stove for 2 hours. And in a bug out situation, fuel is going to be at a premium. And so I have instead opted for things that we can either eat cold out of the can or that require just boiling water. So here's a quick run through. Oh, one more thing. We have gone as heavy as we can on protein because we know that good protein is the foundation for our energy level. And so we'll start kind of over here. And we've got lots and lots of these foil packages of tuna, 17 grams of protein. And so we can use these for a lot of meals. Here are some Ova Easy egg crystals, and these are not substitute eggs, these are real eggs, whole eggs, and they make up beautifully. You can scramble them, you just add water to these, and you can just treat it just like scrambled eggs. Here are some packets of steel cut oats, along with some dehydrated cranberries that I have vacuum sealed. And when we get over to showing the cooking things, I will show you the thermos that I can use to cook these in. Here is a jar of the ghee. This is clarified butter. I've made a video on ghee. This stores forever without refrigeration and has a very high smoking point. So in the event that we want to add a little butter to our eggs, we have it right here. Then we just have soup mixes, pork and beans, and corned beef. We have in some of our other packages in the vehicle kits, we have some of those Mountain Home meals that you just add boiling water to. Of course, we have a can opener, measuring spoons. Here's chocolate, milk mix, and other drink mixes right here, along with more drink mixes right here. These are in the little individual packets that we can just put right down in our water bottles. And then over here we have some snacks that we have. Here's some nuts and peanut butter. And pretty much all of this fits right into this bucket, although some, as I said before, is distributed in our other packages. Oh, here we have some canned fruit and some more oatmeal. We go through these about once a year to eliminate things that have expired. And sometimes it's a little tricky to find the expiration dates on things, so you really have to look. On these little cup things, it is not on the cardboard package, it's right on the cups. But everything else is generally on the labels. So we then rotate about once a year by going through everything and either eating or throwing things away and then replenishing. And every time we replenish, our food mix looks just a little bit different. So that's pretty much it for the food. In addition to Jim running out to the truck and loading as many 5-gallon barrels of water as he can in the time that we have to bug out, this is the equipment that we have packed in our bug out bags and in our vehicle emergency kits in order to deal with the need for water. So one of the first things that we would do, this is my Camelback, and on our to-do list that was taped inside the door where the bug out buckets are, one of the things on the list is to fill up the Camelbacks. And so this would give us an immediately two quarts each of water. So in addition to that, these are Nalgene bottles, one for Jim and one for me. And the cool thing is that they have measurements on one side. So this, instead of bringing any kind of a measuring cup, we would use this for measuring water for boiling the food that we might need. And so each of us has one of these. We each also have these stainless steel water bottles and a cup. Now this is all clean and inside of a plastic bag, but this can also be used on our stoves that we'll be showing in just a minute in order to boil water. So it's nice to have, instead of just the plastic, it's nice to have the stainless as well. Now in terms of filtering and purifying water when we're have bugged out in an emergency situation, for pre-filtering, I have packed some coffee filters. So that would be the first thing if we had to process yucky water. And then we have this pump filter, and this just drops right down in the water source, and then using this handle to pump. And then the cool thing is that the bottom part screws right onto these Nalgene bottles. You just undo this lid and screw this on in place, so you are pumping right into here. And that would be providing you don't need to do any additional disinfecting of the water. Now, in case we also have to disinfect, I have packed some calcium hypochlorite. And if you want to know more about this, you can watch the video on filtering and sanitizing water. But this is enough powder that would do gallons and gallons and gallons of water. It takes just a little bit, so I have also packed with it this little set of measuring spoons that help measure out the amount that we would need. And then if all else fails, here is our Seychelles filter. And this, I'm just going to leave it in the bag. The Seychelles filter is the one that you can dip in any water, any kind of water whatsoever. And the filtering and sanitizing that it goes through as you squeeze the bottle up into your mouth through a little pop-up spout on the top is perfectly safe to drink. So this is what helps us have pure and clean drinking water in the event that we have to bug out. In terms of warmth, heat, and light, we have packed quite a few things. This is my clothing barrel, of course. We need clothes to keep us warm. And so in here, and I've had to go through this about every 6 months, because since we've been on a healthy lifestyle, both Jim and I have lost quite a bit of weight. And so we need to be sure that these clothes fit. So in addition to underwear, I have a pair of jeans, a t-shirt, an overshirt that has sleeves, kind of like this, it's denim, and a sweatshirt, as well as several pair of socks, including a really thick, heavy pair. My feet get cold, and so I'm wanting to be sure that I have warm feet. Also, my bathroom kit is in here as well. But this is very light. I can easily just handle this with one hand if we have to bug out. Then, in addition to this, we keep in the back of my truck, as I explained before, that we're hoping to be able to bug out in my truck. In the back of my truck, we keep sleeping bags and, of course, a tent. I've just brought our different stoves and things, first of all, to be able to start a fire in the first place. We have a brand new fire starter like this. And here is a set of matches with some little bit of kindling. And here is the Cub Scout project, where you take cardboard and roll it and tie it with jute string, and then you dip the whole thing in wax. So these are also fire starters. Now we go with two little stoves. One is this Raptor stove, and the Raptor stove fits inside this pot, which I'll break out in just a moment. But this piece comes loose, and then these blades fold in, so it's just a nice little cylinder. And then this pan fits on the top. This is a fold-up pan, and so it holds about 1.5 quarts. So we can boil water in here and fix any of the meals from our food list that we have shown, and so that's very convenient. In addition to this pot, or this stove, we have this little stove, and this is called a tab stove. It's a backpacking stove, and it folds up, so convenient. So these two little tabs go down flat, and you can open up to this or to this. And then they burn these little fuel tabs, which each one burns about 8 or 9 minutes. And you can, this will also support this pan. And then the stainless steel cup that was in our stainless steel water bottle packet also would fit on here. So any kind of a metal cup, you could heat enough water to make hot chocolate or whatever you might want. Then also for cooking, I have this little tiny cast iron frying pan, and that would either fit here or it would also fit here. So this is what we might cook scrambled eggs in, with just a little bit of the ghee in the bottom. Also for cooking, I have this 24-ounce thermos. Now in our food collection, you saw the steel cut oats. I would just pour those in here, empty the whole packet in here, and then heat up 1.5 cups of water on one of these two little stoves, dump the boiling water in, and then screw the lid back down tight, and then leave it for a half an hour, maybe 45 minutes. And it would cook inside this thermos, so that would be a real fuel savings as well. Oh, here are some extra fuel tabs for this stove. Now, in terms of light, Jim believes in redundancy. So I think in his pack he has a total of 6 flashlights of different varieties. So we have some of these flashlights, and then we also have our head flashlights. And these take batteries, so we've packed extra batteries as well. So I believe that wraps it up for warmth, heat. Oh, one more thing. In our vehicle emergency bags, we also have a fleece throw packed for each one of us. It's rolled up on the top and it's in a plastic bag. And it's a nice little package that just goes with us everywhere in our vehicles. So we do have that fleece throw as well. And then on our way out the door, on our grab list is for each of us to grab a jacket and maybe gloves if it's that time of year. And then both of us have hats packed as well. So that covers it, I think, for heat, warmth, and light. I have gathered a few tools from not only from our bug out bags, but also from our vehicle emergency kits. And I thought I would show you just a few of the things that we have packed. So let's start back here. This is for my truck, and it is a self-contained battery charger. And it also will charge other things as well. But I had to buy this one especially for the size of my truck's batteries. So I went online and found it, and so it's all self-contained, and we carry this in I carry this in my truck all the time. Also, duct tape. We just cannot get along without duct tape. This is a hand crank radio that has the NOAA weather station on it. Jim and I both have a pair of work gloves packed to protect our hands from anything that we might have to do. This is paracord, always comes in handy. Jim has a piece just exactly like this as well. And so there are lots of uses for this. One of our friends told us to be sure and pack one of these in our vehicle emergency kits. And this comes, I think, out of Afghanistan. He was a soldier in Afghanistan, and he said that these are just so convenient because you can use them for a wrap if you need to, or over your head to help shade, or just there are lots and lots of uses for this. This is doubled, and so there are one of these packed in each of Jim's and my vehicle emergency kits. Back over here, in each of our vehicle emergency kits, we have one of these collapsible shovels. Here is for the car. We have one of these by both the driver's side and the passenger side in both of our vehicles. And this is a seatbelt cutter and a window breaker. So in case we ever were to be trapped in our vehicles, we might be able to get out. A friend told us about this knife set, so we bought one. It has this interesting blade, which I have no clue. I've wondered if maybe this was for measuring spaghetti, but I don't think that it is. And then it has these different blades. You could use this for a little saw or maybe a bread knife. And then these other blades, and it all fits in this nice little packet right here. We do have, this is a Cocoon, one of those emergency sleeping bags. So this one is shaped like a sleeping bag. It's a little sack, where this one is just the kind that you just wrap around you. This is the blanket. So we have several of these poked away in little nooks and crannies in our things. Each of us has a rain poncho, just in case. And we have stashed in several places these collections of garbage bags. We also have Ziploc bags in several sizes. This is a mess kit. Both Jim and I have one. These are metal. And this little metal cup would fit right over the top of the backpacking camp stove that will show with the food. And this is silverware. This little knife has a serrated blade, and then these are plastic. This is a battery bank, and this is a fabulous piece of equipment. It will charge my computer or my phone about 10 different times. We also have one of these that is solar powered, that is also stashed with us. This one also has a little flashlight. And speaking of flashlights, in addition to the radio, which is hand crank, Jim also has a hand crank flashlight. So this is about the extent of the tool type things that we'll take with us, with the exception that in the back of Jim's car, he has a regular toolbox, and along with an axe. And one of the things on our grab list is for him to transfer that tool chest from his vehicle over to the truck along with the axe. So this is it for the tools. All right, so we're going to look here now at sanitation, hygiene, and first aid. And all of these things were pulled out of our bug out bag. So first of all, I have a commercial first aid kit. So there's that. And to go along with that, I have a little packet of what are called Sani-Hands. And these are hand cleaning wipes, but they're a high enough content of alcohol that not only does it sanitize your hands, but you could also use it for alcohol wipes for a wound if necessary. Here are, let me see, I'll do this one next. Then I just have this extra bag of all different kinds of medications that are over the counter. One of the things that Jim and I will grab that's on our grab list is our personal prescriptions. But in addition to prescriptions, we have common over the counter things like medication for sore throat and colds, and here's Benadryl and wound cleaners. I also have a series of these 2130 N95 respirators. These are face masks. So each of us has 2 of these in here, so there's 4. And also sunblock and bug repellent. So just some other drugstore type things that we might need. And this goes in the top of one of my bug out bags. Also, we have, in terms of hygiene, we have a whole packet of baby wipes. And this is my personal bathroom bag. I did a video recently on feminine hygiene, and I talked about bathroom kits and also hygiene kits. I transferred my personal hygiene kit into this kit, and we're not going to go through it, but if you wanted to see what is in this or similar to this, a generic one I showed on the video that I did about feminine hygiene. Jim also has a shaving kit that he has put together for his. Now, one of the, and here is a packet of just face cloths. These are terry cloth in case we might need. These were Jim's, and I also have some in mine. Now, one of the alternative things that our buckets can be used for is a toilet. And I wanted to show you quickly how we do that. So, this is one of our 6 buckets, and it has in it this little kit. And this kit has a urinal. This came from a hospital. It has a package of these little gloves. It has black trash bags here, and then the RV sanitizing packets. Now, what we would do in the event that we had to put together a toilet is I've taken this little swimming pool noodle and I have cut through halfway all the way around. And this would just fit right over the top all the way around. I'm not going to take the time to do it on the video, but you can see this would be much more comfy to sit on rather than this sharp edge. So we would take one of these black plastic bags, put it down in the bucket, tape it with duct tape around, then put this on the top, and then as we were using it, we would use the packets of sanitizer. And then I've tested out the lid, and with this little noodle in place, the lid fits on the top, and if we put a brick or something there, it is airtight. So we could keep the odors in here as well. So that pretty much does all of the parts of our bug out buckets. So I hope you have found this useful, and we will be doing more videos in the future, so we will see you next time.